Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Let's talk about what happened to Erickson Lubin yesterday. He got KO'd. Let me tell you, I'm surprised by the outcome of this fight. My pick was Lubin to beat Jermell Charlo, the champion. Right? I thought Lubin had a superior boxing game. Let me just say this. I've placed an inverted copy of the fight in my favorites folder here so you can analyze it for yourself. Obviously, it's a first round KO. It's a short fight. By inverted, as you look at the fight, just understand that it's transposed. In other words, the southpaw is Erickson Lubin. Right? He's the southpaw. Jermell Charlo is actually fighting out of an orthodox stance. Let me just say this. First, the bettors should have been taken care of. Right? Because while my plan A, which was Lubin to win the fight, did not work, just understand that the hedge held. The hedge was Charlo by KO, and he got that in the first round. Right? Let me also just say this. Fighters start the first round cold. They don't know the angles. They're at risk. Now, both of these guys were aggressive early in the fight. I can't call the punch that dropped Erickson Lubin, that ended the fight. And Harvey Dock, quite frankly, saved Lubin's career, right? Because Lubin's badly hurt. He's not in condition to continue, right? I don't think Lubin would have been able to beat the count. After Dock stops the fight, you see Lubin trying to get to his feet. I'm grateful for the stoppage. It was a good stoppage. But what disturbs me is the fact that that's the second really good short right hand that Charlo lands in the round. In other words, Charlo, that's not the first right hand that stops Lubin in his tracks. Ignore the jabs, right? Don't get me wrong, the jabs are effective, right? Ignore the jabs. Just understand that in terms of the right hands, as Lubin tries to collapse the pocket, which is what Lubin's trying to do on his front foot, right? Just understand that that's the second, not the first, that's the second strong right hand that Lubin gets hit with. Lubin shakes off the first one, right? You know the way boxers are. They could get hit by a Mack truck and they're going to pretend that they weren't hurt, right? But just know it lands. This is in a way kind of like the Chris Eubank-Yildirim fight, where Charlo knows before he throws the punch that ends the fight that he's already landed that punch. Right? Again, it's a short right hand right on the side of Lubin's head as Lubin tries to collapse the pocket. Now, I know no one's going to cry for me here online, right? I face some tough comments on Twitter, right? That's Gambler's Advisor, right? At Gambler's Advisor. Even on my at Dwyer70905 site, I'm getting some tough lines on this fight. And that's all fine and dandy. That's fair. My plan A did not deliver. I'm just telling you, though, that in a rematch, right, Lubin never got the car out of first gear. Right? This is like watching an Indy 500 where a driver crashes and burns on the first lap. What I want people to think about is the fact that Erickson Lubin is an excellent boxer. He's an excellent boxer who got caught in the first round of the fight. Right? But he's an excellent boxer. You never saw him have a chance here to get in second, third, fourth, and fifth gear. Right? I'm just telling you that if a rematch were announced, and I believe Jermell Charlo is smart enough not to give this young lion a rematch. He doesn't have to. Right? He can say, hey, didn't I fight him once already? Didn't I win that fight conclusively? Right? This is boxing. It's not a league. You don't get to say, okay, you beat me this time. I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Right? In boxing, when a guy slips by you, think Ali slipping by Foreman. Foreman never gets a rematch. Right? I'm sure Jermell Charlo is not going to give Lubin a rematch until Lubin becomes his mandatory challenger again. Right? But just know that for me personally in handicapping fights, while Lubin loses this fight and while he gets disturbingly hit with the same punch twice in less than 3 minutes, while that concerns me, from this seat, gambling and predicting on fights, if these guys fought a rematch, I would roll with Lubin again. Right? Simply because I feel that the part of the game you didn't see in this fight, Lubin actually, making adjustments. Right? He doesn't make an adjustment to Charlo's right hand here. Just understand that that's unusual for Erickson Lubin. I don't want, well, let's just put it this way. If you leave this video with one thought, I want it to be that Erickson Lubin may still be an extremely talented fighter. And understand he's a young guy with less than 20 fights. Right? The sun will rise again tomorrow. Right? But today, make no mistake, today belongs to Jermell Charlo. Let me concede to the multitude of Charlo supporters who made their voices known in the comment section of the pre-fight video. You were right. Your guy was spectacular. Right? Charlo, I give him credit, very patient. He has a jab that creates distance. He's ready with the right hands, kind of like Juan Manuel Marquez. He's ready with the right hands, as Lubin was a bit over-aggressive. Right? What I believe Lubin needs to consider is to start a little bit more slowly, not try to collapse the pocket in the first round. Erickson, you had 12 rounds, right? You don't need to get to the altar in the first 3 minutes, right? Lubin, a little bit excited, walked into 2 right hands. The second one ends his night. Charlo wins the fight. Fight did not turn out the way I thought it would. Let's just say, though, the hedge held. We live for another day. And if that other day ever happens, I don't care that Charlo sparred with Errol Spence and Erislandy Lara. Right? I'd still take Lubin, because if this fight ever got to the second, third, and fourth gears, I believe it would have been different. Perhaps that's sour grapes on my behalf. Let me also point out, too, that either way you played the hedge. In other words, if you took Charlo by KO, obviously you won the hedge. If you took the under, if you play hedges by taking, over-unders, right? The benefit of that is simply that, if either guy gets the stoppage, then you win on the hedge. Right? The over-under on this fight was 8.5 rounds at a plus 150. You would have won the plus 150 minus the bet on Lubin. Right? Anyway, let me hear, which was a plus 130, by the way. You would have been over equal odds on both halves of the hedge. Anyway, let me hear from you. The floor is yours to the Charlo supporters who believe their guy is the best at 154 pounds, right? Let me add, Jarrett Hurd delivered for us. He beat Austin Trout. I'm going to watch that fight in full a little bit later, and we'll have a post-fight video on that, right? But let me just say, I don't have a good argument to make here On why Charlo is not the best at 154, I would take Jarrett Hurd over Jermell Charlo, right? But it's hard to argue with a guy who is unbeaten and winning championship fights this way. Let's remember, too, Charlo stopped Charles Hatley in his prior fight. In other words, Charlo's reign at 154 pounds includes knockouts over contenders, right? It's hard, quite frankly, for me to argue with that, even as I say that I'd take Lubin in a rematch and I'd take Jarrett Hurd over him. Let me hear from you. The floor is yours. I look forward to reading your comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.